Yeah. But yeah, with the uni stuff, I've got another course, my research methods course, where I've actually been reading a lot of stuff that I find fairly interesting. So the assignment we're doing for that right now is actually we have to do a bunch of annotated bibliographies, which is basically read some paper, explain what the paper's about, explain the author and things like that. But the topic we're actually doing is should artificial intelligence systems have rights? And we've kind of pushed that more towards should they have free speech rights, and maybe we're going to include copyright and patent protection, because they kind of link together. If you... it's very easy to link freedom of expression and copyright and patent law. They kind of link together really easily, so we're thinking of focusing the paper on that. So I've been reading a lot of paper about US case law, and there has been some bizarre, absolutely bizarre cases that have happened in the early days of copyright law within the US, especially when, especially in the context of things that the author didn't actually do to author the paper. So what I mean by this is there was a case where this is just... You're not going to believe me if you don't know about it. I'll see if I can find the name of it. I'll put it in the description. But there was a case in the... I think this was in England, actually, where... No, this one was in the US. Yeah, this one was in the US. There's a different one in England. So in the US, there was an author of a New Age religion. So she and her partner ended up writing this book that ended up being this New Age religion. And they were being basically guided to write this book by the thing they called the Voice, which they ended up claiming at some point ended up being Jesus. Now, the interesting thing here is that they took it to a publishing company, and the publishing company basically took it off of them, and that's because they didn't claim that they were the authors. Who they claimed was the actual author was they claimed that Jesus was the author. So what they tried to do was basically file a copyright with Jesus as the author of this book. And obviously, that's not gonna work. That's... yeah. I don't think I need to tell you why you can't assign copyright to a ethereal entity. And it seems like the US courts agreed with this, because basically their conclusion was that copyright only applies to physical entities. So if you are a ghost or if you are a god, then you cannot have copyright protections. And England did the same thing. So there was an English case where this was with, what's it called? Spiritography, where basically someone will say that they've been possessed by a ghost and then they'll write some stuff down. So someone wrote this book, took it to a publisher once again, and the publisher tried to take it. Now, this person, instead of saying they tried to, or they were writing this for Jesus, or Jesus compelled them to write this time they said that they were possessed by a ghost and they were writing, I think, 2,000 words per hour on paper, and they didn't know any of it. They'd, put a blindfold on, so they completely blindfolded themselves. And they were supposedly writing 2,000 words per hour. They didn't know anything about what they wrote, and then they tried to actually file copyright for the ghost. And you know what? It didn't work, because once again, you can't file copyright for an ethereal entity. So there are some weird cases like this in early copyright law, and it's actually really interesting. Now, it sounds more interesting when I'm telling you about it than when I'm reading it. The actual case law and the papers that actually look through the case law are mind-numbingly boring.